Hi church, it's Pastors Jen and Jacob joining you with another digital devotion. And tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. So hopefully you know what that is, living in Southern California. It is a day when Mexico celebrates their independence from a battle that they won with France in the 1800s. And you know, it gets me thinking every year how lucky we are to live so close to such an interesting and beautiful country. I know that Mexico, like any country, has its own issues and flaws, and certainly the news portrays those on a regular basis. But Pastor Jacob and I were lucky enough to spend a couple of days there last fall when we were coming back from a trip to South America, and we were reminded how beautiful Mexico is. We had a wonderful time there. We happened to be there on Dia de los Muertos, and so we got to celebrate that with some locals, and the hospitality was incredible. Of course, the food is great. We all know that. There was just so much richness there that we got to experience, and we kept pinching ourselves thinking, we live so close to this place, and it's just such a beautiful, wonderful country. And so I think it's really cool that we have a chance to celebrate that every year, being so close to them.
And we heard our friends Ronnie and Derwin, who our church helped bond out of the Adelanto Detention Center, when they were coming up from Honduras to the United States, they told us about how the hospitality they found in Mexico was so incredible, that they were welcomed and taken care of and loved. And our own country has been enriched by this rich history of interaction with people from Mexico who have come to the United States and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And this makes me think about the central tenet of our Christian faith when Jesus told us that the two greatest laws were to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And that is the lens through which we must evaluate all of our actions. We have to love our neighbor as ourselves. And our country has been given the gift of having Mexico as our neighbor. When Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan, he's asked, who is our neighbor? And the neighbor is always whoever you can think of, that's your neighbor. If there's someone who is a challenge to love, then that's your neighbor, and love them. And it's so sad, I think, how often our country portrays our great neighbor in sad light, and has all these images of building a wall to separate us from our neighbor. And often the rhetoric is, well, we need to protect ourselves. But again, remember that central Christian tenet, to love our neighbor as ourselves. It's okay to take care of yourself, but that also means you take care of your neighbor just as much. And so I hope that we can today and tomorrow on Cinco de Mayo think about the ways in which we have been blessed by Mexican heritage and how we can give thanks for our neighbor.
Let's close together in prayer. God of all places and people, on this day we give thanks for our neighbors, both those locally in our communities and those neighboring our country. We ask that you would continue to bless our neighbor and use us as instruments of those blessings, and that you would open our eyes to see all of the gifts and wonderful things that our neighbor has to offer. We ask all of these things in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, friends.